Hello, hello. Welcome once again to the show. My name's Steve Jaguar.
And I'm Mike Foster. We got a great show lined up for you. SPIFFE graduated, Uber got hacked, and we're talking Cast.ai for tool time. Welcome to C9K.
Hello, hello. Welcome to your cloud native video newsletter for your impatient world. And we do have a pretty cool show. It's all thanks to Michael Foster because I was away this week.
Yeah, we had some crazy weeks. I just coming off a meetup. It was the first CNCF meetup in Toronto for like 2 years. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's the first time I had spoken in front of a live audience in a while too. That was weirdly nerve-wracking. But once you get up there, you kind of go with the flow, right? Anyways, it's a lot different than speaking behind this microphone to your face and to all of our viewers.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. I guess things kicked off here for a while. I did the AWS Community Summit yesterday, which was an amazing venue. It was like a brick old warehouse in Manchester. It looked like a stand-up comedy club. It was so it was very cool, very friendly venue, and they had, I think their audience was like 250 or something. It was
wow.
It was full. And the day before, we had our DevSecOps London Gathering 5th birthday party with cake and balloons and free pizza and
Is that
beer
homemade cake too? I saw that tweet. That looked pretty good.
That was Jess made a homemade cake. Yeah, we tried to get one made and nobody would answer us. And so Jess, I think, panicked and made a cake and then dropped it on the tube to the venue. But we reassembled it and decorated it. And so it survived the great DevSecOps Bake Off.
But yeah, so while Steve was out there having fun, I whipped together a bunch of articles, a ton of crazy stuff actually, and we missed one last week. There was obviously a big hack. I should say obviously, hopefully people are paying attention. Yeah, all the links are in the show below, and if you hit the little bell and subscribe, you'll get notifications from when we go live. Anything else? I think we should just get into the general news, right?
Yep. Bam.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and we were just at the CNCF meetup, so this got announced as well yesterday night, and it will be at KubeCon too, but SPIFFE Graduate from Incubator. So obviously some pretty big projects, especially with the supply chain security at the top of mind. You did a demo, right, with SPIFFE, I think on an earlier show.
I don't know. I was wondering that too. I was actually thinking, hey, we should really do a SPIRE demo of some
Yeah.
sort. And then I'm like, wait, no, I did SigStore, but I didn't do Spire.
I thought you did one because it was the SolarWinds hack, and it was a showcase of how you could break the pipeline with
Oh,
SPIRE.
no, I talked about it, but I didn't demonstrate
Mm.
it. So we should definitely put that on our list, because I think that's, and I'm supposed to, it's like part of my remit is to get into this along with SigStore, but I'm pretty sure I haven't done it. So it's on the list. We will, and if I'm wrong, put it in the comments and I'm an idiot and point out what episode I did.
Yeah, we've done a lot of shows. We're coming up on I don't know, I've lost count now. So
A lot, yeah.
yeah, a lot of technical demos, and they're all on YouTube if you want to go back and prove that we're wrong. I feel like I have 7 articles that I posted that should all be in the WTF section, but we need some general news for people and
We needed some.
keep the discussion going. So bleeping computer. This is kind of funny. I always knew this was a thing, but it's weird that this is just getting called out now. Google and Microsoft can get your passwords via web browsers spell check.
Yeah.
I love their comments. So if you go down, typical spell checkers are enabled, and that's fine, but you can do basically a advanced spell check that you can go, enhanced spell check in Google that you can go and click. And that one uses AI to kind of figure out your patterns, I'm assuming. In order to build up their model, they have to ship all that information back. So basically their comment is, well, you're subscribing to the service, so you know that feature comes with the ability to pull your passwords and send it back, which
I think there's a really good bit. So I watched the little video, right? And the moment you know you're effed is when if you see the video, is when he does this, he clicks the show password and you see the squiggle show up underneath it, and you're like, oh, you're fucked. It's gone.
Yeah. It is one thing that I do like. Grammarly does not show up on any autofill web pages.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
Grammarly's okay.
So Grammarly, yeah, because I have 1Password in Grammarly. So like 1Password for the autofill, and Grammarly does not show up on any of those any forms.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, well, Grammarly's smart.
Yeah, so it's a nice product. But I thought it was interesting because, watch out. Now, whether or not this is actually useful, I mean, realistically, it's all kind of scrubbed away personal details anyways. But, it is a use case for something like 1Password where, okay, well, you have 1Password that's compromised, just rehash it out. If you have 1Password for everything and it gets compromised, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's funny. It does though. I mean, I think we've spoke several times about, well, JavaScript owns your whole browser.
Yeah.
So every little plugin you've got across the top probably asked for complete control of everything you type. So just be aware, it's probably not just your spell checker. There are other things in there that are dangerous.
Speaking of WTF articles.
Yeah, what is it? All right, I was going to say you added all these, but I read this one. Border agents. Where is he?
It's coming up. There it is.
Grabbing data from American phones without warrants and storing it for 15 years. Sure.
Yeah, so a lot of this has to do, I think you technically can say no. You don't have to show your phone, but this obviously comes with weird pressure. You're trying to get back into the country or do something. And it's like, well, why don't you just unlock your phone and let us look through it? And then they just take all the data. I mean, anything that gets stored for 15 years, I think there should be a limit on this stuff. Even if they are taking it, it's like you get 2 years. Is that a bad take?
No, I mean,
they should be taking it in general, but
shouldn't be taking it in the first place.
I just say 15 years is kind of a ridiculous timeline, right?
It is ridiculous. I mean, I could see why they just made it up. Searchable. What was crazy? There was a bit 1,000. So anyone it seems like just about anybody in Homeland Security can just have a little dig on it as well.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of, with the security background, a lot of the issue is not necessarily from the first use case. It's always, you're holding this for 15 years. What happens if somebody hacks your system? What happens if somebody walks home with a hard drive, right? Like, it's not necessarily that I care that the government's spying on my photos, but all that stuff could get out just because somebody decides, oh, I want to leak this, right? Or you get into a position of power 15 years later and somebody goes into the archives to look for dirt on you, right?
Yeah.
that should just never happen. You should never have to worry about that as an attack vector, that they trying to get back into your own country, right?
Yeah, I'm now specifically interested in what photos are on your phone, because you just called out photos.
I could pull some up. I mean, there's some from Boston when we did the Titanic there at Envoy. I think that's a good one.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's make never open your phone.
Yeah.
Never.
There you go. And then this one, AWS IAM tokens are stored in clear text, and no, that's not a critical vulnerability. Did you get the chance to read this one?
Yep. I read it.
Yeah, so this was very interesting because there was a background. There's an article talking about access tokens and how people, let's say, might have thought it's an extremely critical issue that IAM tokens, how do I say this? Access tokens can be read in clear text. So there's Microsoft Teams. There it is. Article exclaiming alarm. Access tokens for Microsoft Teams can be read in clear text. This vulnerability disclosed by Vector as critical.
Disclosed.
Yeah, and it's world ending. But as they go down, the point is a lot of tokens and just in general things are stored on developers' repositories.
Sure.
But it's not considered a critical vulnerability. It's like you consider this one critical, but not the fact that developers are constantly storing secrets and tokens in plain text in a lot of their repositories, right? That was my takeaway.
I agree. And he's basically pointing out, maybe, I think people know this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're accessing AWS with the CLI, you have access on your laptop. Like, this got me thinking that if I ever wanted to really get access to some serious stuff, I would make a cool CLI that did something, or kubectl plugin that all it did was look in the AWS config directory and kubeconfigs and export them all out to my command and control center. Because as much as this is not a critical vulnerability, and there are things all over the place, and really we should come up with better ways of doing it, and he does talk about that later on. Like, you should leverage like the key, what's on that Mac?
Like a credential. If you're on a Mac, like keychain, very similar. Yeah.
You should use keychains to sticking it in a dot file.
Yeah.
But the reality is there's loads of them. And actually, I don't know if I'm agreeing with them or not agreeing with them. I'm agreeing with them that it's common. But now I'm starting to think, wow, how easy it would be to make friendly command line tools that everybody's got a command line tool that in the background just grabs all those known locations.
That would be pretty interesting. All right. So why are you evil? We had a conversation. Somebody asked you a question. Why are you so evil? As you were demonstrating all your hacking capabilities.
That was the only question I had at AWS was, when did you learn that you were evil?
That's good. Yeah, you belong to our next section. This one's for you. Why are you evil? That's funny. Yeah, speaking of, it's just really evil. This is just kind of funny. I'm not sure if you've heard about this in the gaming industry.
I mean, this was everywhere.
Yeah. For context, Grand Theft Auto 5 has been around since 2013, I want to say. Rockstar has this huge thing where they just release one game every like 7 years, and they just milk that for forever. I mean, I think it's the single most. They've made the most money for like an entertainment piece. I don't know how they want to say it, but it's like $700 billion on a game. Something ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Not billion. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So they have a new game coming out. It got leaked apparently by like a 16-year-old, and the FBI is investigating. It's kind of shocking that they got access. I'm guessing somebody left their laptop open or something like that. They didn't really explain how.
It was, I think it did either not here, but somewhere. By the way, this is the same guy as the Uber guy, and we're going to get to that in a second as well. It was via Slack. So somehow got onto the developer's Slack. Like, everybody has a Slack. Like, we have our public one for people, and then we have the one that we use to talk about internal conversations and things that should never go public, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can social engineer your way into a Slack, like, because there's a lot of it. Like, if someone got into our Slack, that would be really bad. I know that for sure. So I think it was something like that. And I think there's a similar story around the next one as well. Actually, should we just transition straight over to that?
Yeah, let's go to it. I mean, I just thought it was pretty crazy that Grand Theft Auto got hacked and their whole business is selling violent video games. It's kind of funny. Yes, and then now they're the morality police because they're going after a 16-year-old for the hack. I'm like, this actually probably brings you more news than you think. And all it did was show gameplay clips. It's not, I don't know. Well, just don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
He also said he had the whole source code for version 5. Oh, so that's more than just.
That makes sense.
He obviously didn't. It's really interesting that he had the source code for 5 but didn't get it for 6. Then I'm like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
And he's holding them ransom. He's like, I will release it if you don't.
All right. Well, then yeah, you got to call the FBI.
Yeah, you got to call.
Maybe just release the photos next time and don't talk after that.
He's being a jerk about it, which then makes him sound like a 16-year-old.
Good point.
So this is the one that we missed last week because I think I was joking last week that every time we do a show, something is announced during, like something's probably being announced right now that is earth-shattering, and we're missing it because we're talking about what just happened before.
And everybody always wants to announce their crazy stuff on Friday, right?
Well, there's Friday.
That's the move. When you have to talk about a hack, it's like, okay, we're going to release it Friday at 4 p.m. Anyways.
Yeah. So this is it. Anyway, Uber got hacked, responding to a cybersecurity incident. And it was apparently very convincing screenshots, full administrative access. And it was apparently some 16-year-old who did the same thing and was like trying to get money out of them. I added one more link. This is you probably just saw it for 2 seconds. I announce I am a hacker and Uber has suffered a data breach. Like, you're a 16-year-old. You could tell right there. You're bragging too much. He's going to end up getting caught because he's doing too much showing off. But until this, September 19th, Uber is blaming these guys who have been on the show before, Lapsus,
Interesting.
for their hack. So they're trying to tie it back to that very clever hacking game, which I can't remember the last one that they were associated to. I think there's probably in links in here, targeted Microsoft, NVIDIA, Okta, a whole bunch of things. But see, I don't remember them like being so vocal and sounding so childish. And so I have like a conspiracy theory that Uber's just announced that it was a very clever, super clever hacking group because it makes them look better for being hacked.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll do it.
If you're going to get hacked because you did something stupid, then okay, say the greatest current hacking people on the planet were the ones who did it. I don't know.
No, that's smart. That actually makes sense.
It's better for your stock.
Yeah, it's not good to admit that you got pwned by a 16-year-old.
Right. That sounds way better than some kid in his mother's basement. Mom, I'm hacking Uber.
Okay, Cartman.
Yeah. All right. Is the next one
about hard drive one? Because we were sitting there and I was just thinking about the U.S. government taking information and taking photos and putting them on hard drives. And then Morgan Stanley's coming in with a $35 million fine for unencrypted, unwiped hard drives.
There it is.
Yeah. And yeah, basically they had these hard drives and they were selling all their on-prem software. They didn't wipe the hard drives. And so they sold hard drives to people with all the information on it. Like, what?
Over a 5 year.
How does this happen? Oh my gosh. Imagine 35 million because you just nonchalantly just gave away hard drives.
Yeah. I know a guy who works at Morgan Stanley. So when I saw this in the list, I immediately WhatsApped it to him.
No comment. I will not confirm or deny.
Nope.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. I don't even think I have to scroll down because I mean,
just that astonishing failure.
Except for that, it's nuts, right? Who needs to hack when you just got to go to eBay?
Yeah, and that's the thing is everybody thinks hacking is this you crazy 16-year-old sits in his basement. Realistically, this is what happens. This is the most. It's the thing I worry about.
Seriously, that's brilliant.
Yeah. And then I think our last WTF, because why not have a DDoS attack for every show?
We need a new video sting. It's DDoS of the week.
Yeah.
Another record DDoS. I didn't read past the title on this one.
Strong attack which targeted an unnamed Chinese telecommunications company. Are they attacking themselves now?
Maybe they just try to get the record.
Yeah, maybe this is just like they're pen testing something.
But it's that's pretty. Well, I can't remember. Was it only how many weeks ago was it where we were? It was only 2 weeks ago, where it was a record DDoS attack or something like that, and it was. I don't know. Oh, there it is.
It was on Google, I think, but I forget the number. This one was from a botnet comprised of 170,000 different IP addresses spanning routers, security cameras, compromised servers located in more than 180 countries, primarily the US, Indonesia, and Brazil.
That's crazy. So this is what 25 billion requests, 3.9 million per second. And let's find out. 46 million requests per second. 46 million requests per second. Actually, 46 million. So this one's actually technically slower, but there was more, I guess.
Nah,
it's not that impressive all of a sudden.
Yeah, this is the WTF, because like, come on, step up your game.
You can do more million requests per second than that.
Yeah, and speaking of millions of requests, we have millions of dollars now.
Oh yeah.
Great thing. Yeah, we've talked about some investment firms popping up. SentinelOne, I guess, has a bunch of cash laying around.
I guess this is like the 100 million fund. It's like we had one of these last week to invest in enterprise cybersecurity. Wait a second. Does that phrase even make sense? Enterprise cybersecurity startup? How can you be an enterprise startup? Anyway.
So I think it's startups focusing on large companies and solving their problems so that they can be reabsorbed.
Fair enough.
Like, I mean, some things like Acorn, right? I think Acorn would be a enterprise developer platform startup thing.
Okay, that's good. That's very fast example. Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I just thought, because we'd been chatting about how all these VC funds pop up, and it's very interesting that you kind of, tech is paternalistic in the sense where you have a couple people that rise to the top. They do a good job, and so then they get a bunch of investment money flown in, and then they get to pick the winners downstream that mold up. And so you wonder, are you really getting the best solution, or are you getting the solution that the forefathers want to be absorbed back in, right? And they obviously, it comes with all the expertise that gets bled down, but yeah, I think paternalistic is probably the term for it, right? I don't know. It's like a frat house in there.
Okay, I don't know if they would describe it as a frat house, but
yeah, it's $100 million. I didn't know, what's SentinelOne valued at now? A couple billion?
Oh God, yeah, must be crazy. I didn't say in the article, but sure.
Yeah, and I didn't see any other small ones popping up. If anybody watching saw some acquisitions or anything of that sort, drop in the chat. Kind of curious. I didn't find a lot of big spenders this week, but that fund popped out.
Yeah, that's good. That counts.
Now we have a pretty big vulnerability. Well, kind of. Anyways.
Now, what starts with the letter C?
I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah.
An unpatched 15-year-old Python bug allows code execution. And it's so simple. It's amazing that Python still has an unsanitized extract on tar files. Like still. It was
unpatched, yeah.
I actually popped because it talks about the first mention, right? I thought, oh, I'll just pop this up. You ever want to go back in time to 2007? There we go. This is just somebody going, hey, turns out that if I do this, I can write over the password file.
Mhm. Crazy.
Just put enough dots in there, and eventually it hits the roof. And but I was wondering how to fix it. And it's like 2022. Oh no! Like what?
And I think one of the interesting aspects of this is the reason why so many projects were impacted is because of Copilot.
Oh, really?
So if you scroll down, the estimated 350,000 projects impacted, but what they realized is 61% of the ones that were vulnerable is because of Copilot. So Copilot was actually recommending this vulnerability. Yeah, there it is. We were able to reach a much larger data set. Basically, they realized that it had been getting recommended and that it had been in so many repositories. So it's like Copilot was recommending it, and it also picked it up or something like that. That was my.
Oh wow! Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And yeah, so you see such automated tools rely on code, and the autocomplete options kind of, it basically just drops that in. But if you're not doing any proper checks, that vulnerability is not going to show up, right?
That's hilarious. And that gets right into like various conversations we've had about Copilot, where if, what are you basing your suggestions on? If it's on code, well, how far back are the recommendations going? Because the wrong recommendations could be around for 14 years. And then the right code is only a year. So majority rules, the wrong recommendations are going to be the ones that you're going to get first. That's cool. I mean,
yeah. So I'm actually really curious. Like, so you build up this engine, a Copilot. How do you scrub it from a recommendation? Just I would love to talk to a data scientist about that. Like, do you just set up your model specifically so that you can scrub one? I don't know. Anyways,
I don't know.
Curious how that would work.
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question for anybody watching who knows the answer.
Yeah, and Geek Masher is going to do a startup.
Geek Masher,
Deep Web ML SaaS. Yeah, yeah. Maybe some blockchain technology or something like that. Some catch the eye.
Do it. There's money. Money
there
to be
is.
had.
All right.
One question about this. So in 2018, I just remember what this reminded me of. In 2018, Sneak found something that they called zip slip, and it was the same thing. It was a zip. It was not tar, but it was the zip libraries that were in Java, I think in Go, also didn't check the path. So, and Java is particularly bad. Like a lot of people who write Java websites accept uploads. And so you could do the same thing, ... etc password. You could do all the same stuff, or you could write over any executable you wanted. Like it was basically remote code execution, right? Because if anything you knew would execute, then you just write over it, whatever you wanted. So it just reminded me of that. And it's funny that like typically when things like that happen, like when Log4j happened, everyone went crap and looked at every other logger to see if there is a similar possibility. It amazes me that thing happened in 2018 and no one looked at everyone else's version of extraction, particularly in tar, like for this to still exist. Anyhow, there we go. It was in a lot of languages. It was in certainly it was in Go and Java, but it was a few others. Not Python, but Python obviously got there eventually.
I think if you scroll down a little bit further, it actually shows the industries impacted, AI, ML being one of the biggest ones. And it kind of makes sense, right? You think about your data scientists, they care more about their models. It's more data driven. Anyways, I think in terms of the highest impact, it does make sense. Being Python
that's
vulnerability.
Python's used most of those industries. So that makes total sense.
All right. You ready for tool time?
I am ready for tool time.
Let's do it.
Does everybody know what time it is? Tool time!
All right. So
hand over to you.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm going to have to wait. Which one's this?
We can intro it like this.
You can intro that one
while
first.
You're fiddling.
I'll get the console up.
All right. So on our list, Cast.ai. I love it when people give you a free opportunity to play, freemium or whatever you want to call it. I think we started only like doing open source projects, and then we kind of migrated over to why don't we do these sort of freemium things, and just we'll do it so you don't have to. And you got it going.
Yeah, it's going. But maybe a quick review. What do you think of the messaging overall?
Do I have to get the bingo card out?
All cloud security insights for K8s in one place, which so it now has free cloud native security insights. I thought it was interesting because when you get into the platform, it kind of seems like it's more cube cost and efficiency focused, as you'll see. So there's this.
This is cloud security right on it.
Yeah, and there's a weird kind of messaging change between the website and then when you get into the console. But yeah, I think it's awesome. So originally, when you get in there, it will showcase, you plug it into your cluster. I have 2 Google clusters running, and it'll help you with the optimization for cost. And then now there's vulnerabilities as well in configuration management. So,
do you think they pivoted?
It kind of feels like it. It feels like they had cube cost, and then they had some sort of cost analysis background, and then they're like, oh well, why don't we get into security and be cloud native or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, if you're good at, oh, there you go, cost optimization, cost savings. Well, there, kind of.
Right?
There's a little bit of favoritism.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of interesting seeing that that progression. I think because my guess is it started off around cost optimization and then pivoted.
Well, there's more money in security. We just saw that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Is this an enterprise startup?
This is, I don't know. It might be. They don't see zero. I'm now checking. Actual price isn't listed.
But yeah, so it's pretty cool because you could book a demo and you can start for free. The freemium version is missing some features, but I hand it over and I'll show you what.
All right, I'll get out of here. Then.
Yeah, what I mean here. Let me zoom out a little bit, make it wider for y'all at home. All right, so this is, if you say start free trial, it's a cloud SaaS solution, right? So you don't have to install anything to get the original UI set up. It's pretty nice, honestly. It's easy, painless. Just got to give them your email. I already got pinged. So salespeople are doing a good job. If anybody's watching this, they're on top of it. Connecting a cluster is very easy too. Right? Like I had 2 Googles set up. You pick your specific flavor and run the script. Obviously, you're taking a token, you're taking all the YAML manifests, and then you're basically kubectl applying them all, right? We've seen this before. And then, so this is what's interesting. So they message on security, but then get your savings report. Like this should be changed too, FYI. Yeah, it should be get your savings and security report, right? Like that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's why I was shocked because originally it got sent to me and being security focused. I'm like, oh, let me check this security tool out. And then I get in here. I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, so I did run the script and this is the main dashboard, which I like at a glance. It's just this though. So there's nothing really else over here.
Oh, I thought that was like your share being weird.
No, yeah, it's just all clusters. And then you can't really look at both together. So you see cost, nodes, CPU, memory, but there's no security aspects at this level.
No, at first
you have to click in. Yeah, and so see, you get to the dashboard and it's very cost and use case or how much you're using, cost monitoring, available savings, and then the security port's new in beta. So it's very interesting, right? It's almost like the messaging is before the product implementation is there. But
oh really? I've never seen that before.
Yeah, it is pretty cool though, and it actually almost reminds me of like a kubelinter plugin in the back. So we have host name sparing, Docker sock mount, exposed SSH port, no read-only root file system, right? Like these are host network namespace sharing. Yeah, that's a high severity, right? Like these are all configuration checks in Kubernetes, which are great. You can sort by them pretty easy. I do like this.
That's sexy. Yeah, I like whatever they're using for their UI.
It's very clean and really nice. It scales really well. I think it's nice too. They don't have so much security information that you're overwhelmed. Right? This we've seen in some demos. Failed checks. We go back to security reports. Now, I have 2 clusters and they're very vulnerable clusters. I think this is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of shocked that many popped out, because if I run a StackRock or something like that, I think across both clusters I had 900 vulnerabilities. And then you can sort by fixable and non-fixable too, right? So I think that is one of the features that I personally like a lot. If I'm a security owner here, it's like total issues. One, what is an issue? You know, how do I triage? Do I just want to look at the critical ones first? Okay, let's look at the critical ones.
Yeah.
But like, how do I sort through? This is cool. I think the to showcase for how you're dropping or gaining vulnerabilities over time. I think security teams are going to love that. You need to be able to export it, right? Like, I think if you have this graph, you're going to want to export it. I'm just my 2 cents on how to change it. But yeah, like, this is so you have this dashboard, but I can't really click into anything anywhere, right? I have to go down here. Oh, hold on. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I have to go over to the vulnerabilities page in order to actually see them.
So,
right. So there's this overview, but the overview page is not clickable. It's really just a high level graph, and that's it. And then there's just 2 things. It's best practices. So it's just showing resources with a specific issue, which is nice. I like this little side panel so you can see exactly where it is in the specific namespace. And then you can go over to vulnerabilities as well, and then look at your actual affected resources. So I have one resource here, and then you can see all the vulnerabilities. Oh, they do have fixable, but it's just not sorted. That's pretty cool. So they do have fix and available, not available.
oh, so you only see it there though.
I like that. Yeah, you only see it there, and it's not sorted. You can't sort it at the front, right? Like, I would want to know, because now I've clicked into like I've made 3 clicks before I've even figured out if something's fixable or not, right?
Yeah.
To me, the vulnerabilities here, like, you should be able to sort in this page, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't take too much to add like a little metadata thing all across the top. What am I talking about? I don't write front ends. Oh, is it? Actually, let's credit.
Yeah. And so the other thing too is this is cluster 2. So what happens when I want to get a cluster 1? I have to go up here to look at it, right? So I can't match data across clusters easily. I have to go from one to the other, instead of like, hey, I have 6 clusters and I want to look at this specific image across both clusters. You can't. It's not matching that up, I don't think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they do have nodes, and honestly, I think one of the best things is this cost monitoring. I've already gotten an email basically saying, hey, you're not using your resources properly. And yeah, so they have like $1 per CPU. It's showcasing that the efficiency is, I think, around 20% for me. Not quite there. So, and then, so you can see there's like an audit log, autoscaler node configuration, cost optimization. It's not supported for this provider. I don't know if it's supported on EKS or how this all works. I originally thought that these were part of like a paid aspect, like you had to pay to unlock these. But it is kind of weird. I don't know, maybe they're AWS specific, and so you can do all this in AWS but not GKE, and that's on its way. So yeah, you have to try that out for me and let me know. But yeah, so you can see compute costs per namespace too, which is pretty cool. I mean,
that is cool. Yeah, I actually like all the cost stuff.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, I think it's their bread and butter. I think they've been working on the cost aspect for the longest amount of time, and security's new. So yeah, I mean, current month spend, monthly forecast, average cost per CPU for this cluster specifically. And yeah, so you can enable optimization. I haven't run this. I'm not sure if I really want to, but yeah, prefer to see it in action, schedule a demo. Like they have the right click-throughs too. It's a nice UI.
That's cool. Yeah. A little call to action. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and save 75%. It makes sense because I'm like in the Google console. I can see that the cluster is running at about 20% efficiency, right? So nice.
Boom.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Okay.
No pressure. They're watching.
Yeah, no pressure. I was gonna say, like, I actually really like that aspect. I like the freemium version. It's kind of cool to get in, especially as a newbie, and just see, hey, my clusters aren't optimized at all. Here's some vulnerabilities. But yeah, the correlation across clusters, I think, is a big one for scaling, at least. But for the average person that runs their own single cluster, this is pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's a comment I would make if I'm not interrupting you too much on the security report, like when you said like you were surprised to see so many vulnerabilities, right? Because you've done scans on the same clusters with other tools before.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wonder what's under the hood, because if they're using an open source scanner, like if they're using Trivy, let's just throw Trivy out there, because we looked at lazy Trivy last week, and when I scan things with Trivy is like, I don't want to call it unfiltered, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a lot of vulnerabilities that you're like, do I care about all these? Because it's very erring on the side of giving you more than less. And so the noise level on it looks like it's using a Trivy or a Claire, right?
Yeah.
Under
so
there.
I'm assuming that in this Yelp app server, there's 2,000 vulnerabilities.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
That does seem kind of cuckoo. I might actually go. How many? Can you go bring that up again for 2 seconds, if you don't mind? I'm really keen to see that number again. Wow. 2,
yeah. So I'm kind of curious where that number comes from. And then the other thing is fixes. There's only 325. So if there's 2,000 vulnerabilities and there's only 300 fixes, I think something's up. But it is a very old container, and I have no clue. So the other thing is, a lot of my demos specifically, they're containers where they're not reported on anymore because they are so old. So you could get a mismatch between what's getting reported, right? Which is possible, but yeah. I mean, it's just pretty sweet. The fixes aspect is cool. Being able to sort through that, I think, is one of the best aspects, right? Like,
there we go. Yeah.
That's great. I would honestly put the fixes and I have it filterable up here, like next to resources vulnerable, and then fixes, yes, or true, or something like that. And then just sort like filter by that. I think would be a great, easy add. Wouldn't it be great if you had enable secure cluster and then it just hardens everything?
Oh, come on. Nobody does that. People ask that. You work for a vendor.
Yeah.
There's no auto fix, man. No vendor is gonna go, you're secure, and then you get hacked, and then we enable security. I don't know. I can't think of a good way of saying it.
No, I mean, that's pretty spot on. The other thing, obviously, just coming from StackRox, is the best practices and vulnerabilities. If you could pair it up into like an overview, or like in this overview, you have issues by severity, issues by best practice, vulnerabilities, and then maybe you just do like a risk profile specific one that matches up. Hey, you have issues with this best practice and a ton of vulnerabilities in this. This is probably top risky, right?
That sounds like StackRox, Mike.
It does. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. But it is definitely a thing. Context is, when you got big numbers like that on your vulnerabilities, I guess our advice, let's say for Cast going forward, is find a way to auto prioritize that for the viewer, so that it gets pushed into some form of, my time is best spent here, and put it into the words of Kubernetes, not containers.
But pros, super easy to set up. Basically, you get like a Slack channel invite pretty quickly too. There's a Slack channel if you want to go and ask questions. Just in terms of like the ease of use, the consumable, I don't want to say, what's the word for it? Like architecture, just here, go sign up and consume it. I love that. I hate always having to like book demos before I try things, right?
It's on the bingo card. Yeah. Everyone hates it.
Very cool. It's going after, obviously, the three main providers and COPS. So GK, AKS, EKS, and COPS. But yeah, if you want to try it out, definitely a thumbs up. And actually, I like the color scheme too.
Yeah, cool. I think the dashboard looks pretty damn pretty.
Any last thoughts? Anything anybody wants to see?
Actually,
Geekmaster says, does it have an accuracy metric? What do you mean by that accuracy metric?
Yeah, what is
I'm
that?
curious.
Accurate about what?
Auto fix that would take effort. Yeah, I had this question in the CNCF last night where somebody asked if StackRox spots a vulnerability, will it go and like update it automatically? And I was like, well, one, that would be a lot to automate. Two, why would you have an automatic update for a package? Like you could just brutalize the developer doing that. All of a sudden they go to build their application and something's like it's not working. They have no clue why it's not working until they go and look and see the fact that like you updated a package on them, right? Yeah, it's just so weird. Everybody wants to automate everything, but there's a lot of downsides to that. Flagging everything as noise. Can I pinpoint high accuracy results? Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Well, that's what we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
You need a way to bring context to it. I mean, we were talking about if we use the StackRox example, StackRox would give things risk factors where misconfigurations would combine with vulnerabilities. Therefore, this deployment is where you should focus your attention, and that deployment was often associated with the team. So then you knew what team to talk to. So there was a way there of doing it. If you look at what we're doing at our side at the moment, we're doing something actually really similar, which actually, like going back to what you said about fixes, because we're looking at, rather than fix the patch, we're auto generating pull requests.
Oh.
And it will change the POM or the package JSON as a pull request. So
which is the right way to do it because it needs review, right?
Right. So that's what we're doing. We're taking it from here and going, fix it back there. But we're not going to do it. We're just telling you what we think.
Yeah, and you can choose if you want to accept it or do it next deployment or next development cycle or something like that. Yeah, I mean that's.
Yeah, you got to agree it and review it. And
yeah, the other thing too is if you want to automate like the update, well then you have to give the platform credentials to allow that too, right? Which is a whole nother beast for security aspects.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big don't mess with your cluster, mess with your code kind of guy. So, fix measures at runtime only if you really, really, really have to.
But yeah, very cool. Any questions?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
If Cast.ai is actually watching, feel free to leave more comments where about tell us about your roadmap.
Yeah, because the other thing too is partially, this is a first look. I basically set this up last night, kind of played around with it, so I hope I got everything as accurate as I could. But yeah, very cool. The documentation, by the way, the documentation API and help at the top is pretty top notch. It's very easy to set up. So in terms of getting started, top notch.
It was cool. And if you want to come on the show, we did this once before where I think Mikey went through Rancher. And then 2 weeks later, we had a guy from Rancher on the show. He was like, nope, let me come on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And then that's pretty much it. That's all we have for the wrap up. Security was launched last week. There will be rapid new feature development over the next quarter. Yes. Yeah. And just from security aspects, I heard about the launch. It basically got circulated in our channels. So I was like, let me go check this out. This is cool. Yeah. But yeah, congrats on the beta. It's looking pretty snazzy.
Excellent. All right. That is the end of the show.
Yeah. Anything coming up for you? Otherwise, we'll be back here same time next week.
Yes. Next week I am good to go, and then I have a week off because I'm going to be in taking some holiday.
Yeah, very cool. Thanksgiving's coming up for us in Canada, but we'll be here next week, and then look forward to mid-October, do a pre-KubeCon, and then maybe a during KubeCon show. We'll see.
Sounds good.
Both gonna be the same place, same time for like the third time in a year.
Crazy.
I know. Until next week, I'm Mike Foster.
I'm Steve Jaguar.
Have a good one.